Welcome back to the Total-MLS Roundtable. It's August 4th, 2014. Back to Monday night broadcasts with no MLS game like last Monday night. However, the homegrown game is tonight. If you're interested in that, the homegrown team taking on the Timbers U23s, which is a whole discussion in its own. That game will kick off in about an hour. You can watch it on ESPN3. MLSsoccer.com, and we'll stop so all of you can rush to your computers and watch that game. But for now, let's talk about what's going on in the league. A little bit of breaking news. Looking at Twitter, I see the president of the New England Revolution, Brian Bilello, tweeting, "For all those asking personnel questions, we have a number of things we are working on, but would prefer not to say more as convos are ongoing." So, Revs fans, how does that make you feel? I think the Revs fans are about to jump off a cliff right now.
After that game on Saturday, you would think that after that first half, which was probably the worst first 45 minutes at Red Bull Arena, they were all happy, and you see all the tweets, and then after that their hashtag was kind of depressing to look at.
Yeah, it was sad. Charlie Davies was doing his stanky leg, and then it all went downhill. They went up a man, and then they lost, which is very hard to do. But go ahead.
And with the break in between, it has to be demoralizing.
Yeah, they lost 8 games in a row, and then they finally
won.
Midweek they get a win, and you think, all right, here they go, and then they're up 1-0 and up a man on the road, and big road win for more momentum, and then crash and burn.
You would think that Red Bull fans were very happy that they won on Wednesday, because we've been the ones that teams have broken their streaks on all season long, the Timbers. So it's just it was just not looking forward to the Refs coming in, losing whatever it was, 8 or 9 in a row, to having to break the streak at Red Bull Arena. So it was kind of good they got that win Wednesday night.
Yeah, they had a nice little traveling group come down there, and they had it all going for them, and it all crashed. But now their fans, like you said, their hashtag turned quickly. They're desperately wanting to sign. It seems like anyone. There's rumors flying around. So and so talked to Bob Kraft, and their wife talked to somebody, and who knows what the Revs are going to do. But from that tweet that I read earlier, it looks like they're in conversations to do something. Even if they do something, you guys think they can make it in the East? All of us supporting Eastern teams, I think we have a good viewpoint on the East. Does New England, can they climb back in?
I mean, they had the start of the season, they had that terrible run, and then they had 5 or 6 wins in a row, and now they had this terrible run again, and they're still in it. The East is so, outside of Sporting and DC United, the pack is just condensed 3 through 7, 3 through 8. So it's really, really up in the air, especially with DC Sporting and the Red Bulls starting Champions League, and Montreal. All starting Champions League. Montreal starts tomorrow, right? They play.
They play.
The Red Bulls group play starts tomorrow, so it's just, who knows? Who knows what Ben Olsen or Mike Pecky are going to do? I mean, Sporting seems like they're reeling a bit depth-wise on their back line. So how much are they going to invest, in the Champions League? So I really think that's what it is. The Red Bulls have something like 7 or 8 games in 22 days in September, so anyone can fall out of that pack, especially that Houston, who I think they're outside. Or did that win propel them back into the playoffs? Or
no, they're outside. They're 8 or 10.
Yeah, but they don't have Champions League to worry about. Columbus doesn't have Champions League to worry about. Toronto doesn't have Champions League to worry about.
Philly, all the teams on the outside are
not in Champions League except for 3 teams. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be, what does the coach want? What does the club want more? Do they want the quarterfinals in Champions League, or do they want MLS Cup? And I think for the most part, most coaches are probably going to say MLS Cup. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
you have. I mean, Chicago is ninth. And they're only what, 5 points out of the playoff spot. I
Yeah,
mean,
Hmm.
just a 2 or 3 game run from any of these teams can put them in a great spot. Conversely, 2 or 3 game losing streak can take them out. So
yeah,
which is why you have to commend New England for at least the beginning part of the season because they're they're only a point out of the playoff while losing 8 straight. It's
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah,
Um,
New England has 12 losses. Houston has 11, and they're
yeah,
very much in it.
yeah. And I think with Champions League, I think Montreal has nothing to lose. They're not going to make the playoffs, so they got nothing to lose for Champions League. New York, I think New York does concentrate on MLS. I think they're going to try a little bit in Champions League, but I can see them focusing on at least getting the playoff spot.
Yeah,
Sporting is going to go full board in Champions League. They're even with the depth problems, I don't think they're going to sacrifice that.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think Sporting. I mean, they won the Open Cup 2 years ago. They won MLS Cup last year. And they're in it for the Supporter Shield, but I think
Yeah,
they kind of I think they kind of see themselves as kind of ambassadors for U.S. soccer. They're the club that other teams look up to, and if they won the Champions League, it would be another
yeah,
yeah,
crown for their kind of their whole cause of being that
yeah,
that franchise, that the crowning franchise in MLS.
yeah. I mean,
they're like the LA Galaxy of a couple of years ago when Beckham was, there and they were winning, MLS Cup back to back and they were getting close and stuff like that. That was them, but LA's fallen off a bit and now Peter Vermees is taking over that Bruce Arena. Like we're going to be the first for this. We want to be the first one. That's going to be it's going to be big bragging rights for whatever club is the first to win the CCL and MLS.
yeah. Yeah, and Sporting have the mentality of it doesn't matter how prestigious the trophy is, they're going to they're going to be 100% behind it. If it's in the preseason or, I mean, they're friendly against Manchester City, they even created a championship shield, a trophy. I'm sure that wasn't Manchester City's idea,
No.
but they
Probably
they
not.
did it because it doesn't matter what it is. It could be for a paper cup. They're going to go out and try to do all they can to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna if they go for it in the Champions League, I don't think they're gonna be hurt too much
No.
in MLS. I mean, they're what 10 points clear, something like that
Yeah.
of everyone
And
else. Yeah, they have 39. New England's in sixth with 26. They don't really have they're not really risking falling out. I mean, the only thing
No.
they're risking is the Shield.
yeah, exactly. And they did it last year too. They fell short of the Shield by 1 or 2 points, and they won
Yeah.
the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
And you got this year with their injury problems. It means guys like Kevin Ellis and Eric Palmer Brown and a lot of the youngsters that usually don't get playing time have to play. So everyone is 100% in a sense in terms of playing time. So you have interchangeable parts in there to be able to compete for these trophies and have people that you don't have to worry about, having rust on them.
That's kind of like the Red Bulls. I mean, but the problem is their youngsters they're all starting on their back line, and all their veterans are on the bench. So,
Yeah,
when you go to CCL play, maybe Kimura, Convey, Eckersley, if he's still actually in New York City or the metro area. No one's seen him in a long time, and he was dressed for the Arsenal game, but he's like the only player that didn't get on the field for them.
yeah,
So great signing by Roxburgh there. But so it'll be interesting. I mean, they loaned out Lade. Lade gets injured. They loaned out Christensen to Orlando. I doubt he'll be back because he has Bustamante and Stevenson ahead of him in the depth order. So I mean, they'll have veterans be able to play. But if Miazga continues the way where he's going, he's going to have to. He's going to be out at least one game. He's going to have to take a seat again to get his head right. So it'll be weird. Mera will probably play Champions League over Robles, give Robles some breathing time. We all know I think he has the most shots on frame against him, and he has the most saves. And as a goalkeeper, you don't like that because your defensive front is not doing their job. A lot of people are giving him praise, and he's stopping a lot of shots. But it's at the same time, how much is too much for him? Will that dam eventually break, like it did against Chicago when they scored 5 goals at Red Bull Arena?
Yeah. Yeah, I think. I mean, if you look at the teams that are outside looking in, we talked about New England. Then you have Philadelphia. They brought in Emboli. They brought Valdez back today. You have Houston. They brought in Beasley and Garrido. They both started yesterday. Houston got the win. Chicago, they're talking to Jermaine Jones. They might not be talking to Jermaine Jones. Who knows? But it seems like those 4 teams, New England, Philly, Houston, Chicago, that are on the outside, they're all going for it at least. Who do you guys think out of that group would have the best shot at making it?
I mean, Houston has 2 solid additions. Chicago, talking to Jermaine Jones is not the same as adding Jermaine Jones. So
Right.
if they add him, how will Lorenowitz do at center back? Or their defense has been pretty suspect through the middle. Is he the answer? Who knows with that? You got to give that time to work itself out, and that's if Jermaine Jones comes. You could do all the formations you like with Jermaine Jones, but until he has that fire jersey on, it means nothing. Same thing with Ronaldinho. How many different 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1s I saw for the Red Bulls with Ronaldinho somewhere in the middle. He's not a Red Bull player. It makes it too much speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I might be a little biased, but I think it'd be Houston too. I mean, last night was massive. They needed 3 points. 90 minutes in, it looked like a disappointing draw, and then Bill Hamid runs into Bird Bomb, and
that's
it may have saved the season.
Yeah.
Bruin scores against DC United again. She owns that team. So I mean, Beasley's in. He played well. I think Garrido played well. I think they finally found another central midfielder to pair with Ricardo Clark, which is big. If Bruin can keep scoring, that's going to be the big question. He's so off and on all the time. He'll go on streaks where he scores 4 or 5 games in a row, and then he'll go a month without scoring. But I mean, I was in the locker room last night, and every one of those guys saying, they were asked if that was a big win because they beat a team towards the top of the table, and they all said, we think we can beat anyone. But they go to Seattle on Sunday, so they're going to put that to the test real fast. And the win yesterday was it was good. It got 3 points, but Sunday in Seattle is, if they can find a way to win there, then I'll start believing them a little more.
Yeah, I really liked how Houston played. It really seemed with Beasley back there, they really gelled together. You gotta keep in mind too, Houston's getting over a lot of injuries too. So when they get back, they're gonna be even better. The only thing I didn't like was that Houston needed to get some goals in the back of the net. But
Yeah, they had something like 20 shots, and
yeah, it reminded me of Sporting before Dwyer, like taking a lot of shots but couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So I want to see them shore that up, but fix that, and Houston's going to get in the playoff, and they'll be a pain in Sporting side, that's for sure.
And New York.
And New York. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, obviously Beasley Giles Barnes said, he's been to 4 World Cups. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need anyone to talk up what he means to that team. But I think the big thing with Beasley is he's playing on the same side with Brad Davis, who he spent the last month or so playing with. So it's a pretty quick transition for him. Talking to him last night, he talked about how him and Brad are on the same page. When Brad goes up, he goes back, vice versa. So that instead of just coming into a team that he has no idea about it, he at least has played with Davis, and them being on the same side and going forward, that's going to be big for the rest of the season even. All right. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say that's a partnership that Dom Kinnear doesn't really have to worry about. That's that when they picked up Beasley. First of all, I want him at New York, even with Miller. Put one in the midfield, put one left back, and it would work out fine. Luckily, Youngo just came out of nowhere and is doing pretty okay on the left side of the attack for New York. But yeah, it's no beat missed there for Beasley and Davis.
Yeah, I think the big thing when Beasley came in, it was like, where was he going to play? Because Corey Ash is the left back, and he's been the left back for years now. And then the lineups come out yesterday, and Ash is on the bench, and it was just kind of like, well, there's your answer.
Yep.
And after the game, Kinnear said he doesn't comment on what he tells the players in the locker room, but I'm sure Ash wasn't too happy about being put on the bench after years of starting, but it's best for the team. They got the win. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, I think that's probably the lineup you're going to see going forward. Garrido, Clark in the middle, Davis and Boniek wide, and then Ash, Sarkodie wide fullbacks, which is a pretty damn good team. So I don't think many Dynamo fans will complain. You have surplus now with Ash, just in case someone gets hurt, which they kind of lost when they traded Warren Creavalle to get Beasley.
Yeah.
He was kind of their utility guy, their depth. He could play wherever. So having Ash on the bench, having Brian Ownby, they have a couple of good guys on the bench now, so that'll help going forward. But that's a lot of the Eastern Conference. Let's switch over to the West. We have no Western Conference people here, but we think we're pretty knowledgeable sometimes on it. Seattle's kind of sliding back to the pack. They lost last Monday at home. They got trounced, and then they go to Santa Clara and get beat by the bottom of the table Earthquakes. You guys see a crack in Seattle? Are they starting to unravel a little?
I think it's they're sliding a little too early for the fall. If you remember, it was the end of September that they started, or mid-September they started their little downward spiral, and now it's hit them a little too early. But I think that they're earlier in the season that they had performed better earlier in the season. So I think maybe at most they'll slide down to 3 with RSL and LA, the 3 of them battling out for the top 3 spots in the West.
Yeah, I mean LA is only 5 points behind Seattle, and they've got a game in hand. They have like 3 games in hand on RSL. I think LA is that team. We were just saying they've kind of slid back, but here they come again. They plugged Rogers into left back, and all of a sudden found him a new spot. Robbie Keane scoring goals, Landon setting up goals. They're probably one of the most dangerous teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
Team you don't really want to see. They're going to be there. RSL's going to be there. Seattle's going to be there. Dallas is starting to play well, I think.
And they got Mauro Diaz back.
They beat Chivas last night in front of like 30 people. That Tesho is starting to score, their rookie from the Colorado School of Mines. Who knows how they found him, but
he's Canadian though, right? Akindelli?
Is he? I don't know. Somebody's watching. We'll tweet it in. We'll look it up while we're talking. But yeah, they with if Diaz coming back, they've. It hurts me to say this, being in Houston and Dallas is kind of that team up north. But Dallas might be onto something now. They're tied with LA. They have 3 games in hand over them, but I think they get back to the playoffs this year. You have Colorado in 5th right now. Vancouver's 1 behind them. Portland is 3 back. San Jose's and Chivas 7 back. You guys think Colorado can hold on? Dallas can hold on, or one of those teams below Vancouver, Portland maybe sneak up? I mean, Portland, they've got to come to life at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of players that they've signed, the position changes they've had from the beginning, for the end of last season, the beginning of the season. No Ryan Johnson, you know, they're getting Rodney Wallace back now. So if Wallace can get 90 minutes match fit, he might be the guy that propels them back up the table because he was a difference maker for them last year. And I guess they thought maybe Zakawani would be that difference maker, and he hasn't done it for Caleb Porter at all this year, really. So.
They need Nagby healthy too. He
Yeah.
missed the other day.
Yeah.
If he misses any amount of time, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
He's him and Valeri are their engine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they missed Valeri a lot towards the stretch run last year, and they were able to hang on and almost win the Shield on the last day. But I don't know. I don't think their defense can hold together, and I think Ricketts is not having as good a year as he did last year. I think that was the big difference for them. Same thing with like the Red Bulls and Robles this year. If Robles wasn't on point as where he is, the Red Bulls would definitely be down at the bottom of the East. He's kept them up in the playoff hunt. So and Ricketts isn't doing that for them this year. So I mean Vancouver. I mean Pedro Morales is my newcomer of the year right now. He's just been phenomenal for them, and if he keeps that up, they could be pretty dangerous. And Colorado, they bounce around. They're a pretty good team one week, and then one week they have a pretty bad game. RSL was down to 10 men for how long the other day, and they lost.
Yeah.
That's got to be a sting in every Rapids fan. Also, that's their most heated rival, and to go up a man, you think you can get back in the game, and then to not get back in the game. And I came back home, I was watching MLS Live, going, all right, Colorado's going to get back in it. They're going to get back in it. They never got back in it.
Yeah. And I know Tyler couldn't be here tonight, but he's probably at home freaking out over the Rapids losing. At home, and then they go down early, but then they get the straight red, and you think, okay, well, they'll come back and get at least a point, and then to lose, and then lose the Rocky Mountain Cup, that's got to sting for them. Tesho is Canadian. You got a tweet. Total Whitecaps. He's born in Calgary as well. I just looked it up. 6th overall pick in the draft. Doing some things better than, like, say, the 1st overall pick in the draft. But,
Yeah. Well, how do you have 4 keepers? I just don't understand that. I mean, what is there a team that needs a keeper, like, badly?
That's what we were talking about kind of last week. If you look around the league, there's really not any, who would need a keeper. What's a team that McMath would start on? He's not, I mean, he's got to be lower 3rd of starting keepers as it is. So he maybe starts on New England. That's about it. He's not starting pretty much anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have maybe Seattle. Stephen Fry's kind of all over the place at times. But, Ramondo, Pinedo, Raul Fernandez, Irwin. Yeah. Those are all the guys in the West. Kennedy, Ricketts, John Bush. He's not starting over any of those guys.
No. And
then you have the Eastern teams. Tally Hall, Emboli obviously took his job. Kronberg / Grunebaum, whoever's there.
That's Sporting has a pretty good goalkeeper core. New York has a pretty good one. It's
Yeah, I
now.
mean, I think that's Philly kind of got themselves into a corner. They're like, okay, we'll sign this guy, and then we'll be able to trade McMath and get, you know, maybe a defender or a striker or something. And then you realize now, first of all, there isn't that many teams that need keepers, and second, everyone knows they're trying to get rid of McMath, so
Yeah.
they're going to get 50 cents on the dollar for him if they try to trade
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
should.
mean,
Go ahead, Phil.
I mean, they may as well loan one of them out at least. I don't know why Blake or McMath isn't in Harrisburg right now, which personally I would love because, I'm like 30 minutes away from Harrisburg, so I can watch one of their goalkeepers go. But yeah, I mean, three goalkeepers like that, one sitting on the bench, the other one's not even dressing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a little bit more breaking news here. The homegrown starting 11 is out. Lampson is in goal against Phil's selection there. The back
Yeah.
four, Morgan, Mizaga, who probably just got there like a few hours ago, replacing Lade. Salcedo, Palmer Brown starts. The midfield is Ritter, Garcia, Evans, Tebert, and then Jameson and Calvert up front. So no Zardes, no Will Trapp, none of the marquee guys. Tebert's in, I guess. Palmer Brown.
Yeah, are they on the bench or there's no?
I guess they're all available because there's only, 15, 16 of them.
Yeah.
Pfeffer's not starting. I know the Union fans probably would have wanted to see him get some action. This whole homegrown thing is kind of odd to begin with. You guys, I mean, like we were kind of talking about earlier, the obvious choice was to play one of Bayern's youth teams, right?
Yeah.
That would have been a better choice with Byron there, make it wholly encompassing, but like playing the Timbers under 23 is just, it's weird. What happens if one of the homegrowns were a Timbers player?
Yeah. Oh, Harrison Ship's not starting either. He was one of the other stars. But yeah, I mean, guys, I was saying on Twitter the other day, if they win the game, the homegrowns win the game, people are going to say, well, yeah, they're playing, some U23 team. If they probably won't lose, but even if it's 2-1, 3-2, 3-1, people are going to say, these guys aren't that good. They barely beat a youth team from Timbers, academy players or whatever, a PDL team. So it's kind of lose. There's really nothing comes out of it good for MLS. I mean, you'll be able to see some of these guys who people haven't watched play much, but
Yeah, but like outside of Miazga, who, if Lade had gone, Lade doesn't really get time for the Red Bulls, so how much, how match fit is he? A lot of those guys, I mean, outside of Zardes, Ship, Tebert, who are normal, they're regular starters on their team, which is almost unfair for the under 23s for the Timbers because, Zardes is putting goals in the back of the net off the foot of Robbie Keane and Donovan. It's a weird predicament. It's the same thing with mid-season friendly. It's a weird predicament for MLS. They get creamed, and it's it's MLS getting creamed. They win a game. Oh, it's only preseason for those teams. So we're still in a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment.
Yeah, and I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that the Timbers U23s can win. I mean, if you think about it,
they were in the Open Cup. I mean, they've been in the Open Cup the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah, well, you have to think about it. The Timbers U23s. They're not
They're
on
an
TV.
actual team.
Yeah, it's an actual team.
Yeah.
They practice every day. They're not on TV that much, so even if it is ESPN3, they're going to be to a wider audience still.
Yeah, they want to show themselves.
And they want to go out and prove, maybe there's a spot on the Timbers main roster for them. So it's a chance to impress. Where the homegrown players, some of them are already playing. They already have their spots on the team. So, I'm not saying they're not going to try, but they're not going to take risks.
Yeah, that no one's gonna want to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's one of those, kind of just go out there, kick it around, knock some long balls,
Mm.
chase a few, hit a few shots from 20 yards out, call it a night.
Yeah.
But
Same thing with the actual All-Star game.
Yeah.
That's
uh,
true.
Caleb Porter came out and said he's going to play two different teams though in each 45, which is, I guess a lot of coaches like Mike Pecky, Vermees, probably happy about because, then they don't have to worry about their guys going 60, 70 minutes midweek after playing on the weekend and then more chance of more risk of an injury to them.
Yeah.
So, like what was it? It was Olave when they played United in at Red Bull Arena that got injured, and he
Yeah.
went like 60 minutes, and he was only supposed to play 45, and Baca kept him in there, and then pull up a little limp with the hamstring,
Mhm.
and out like a month and a half for RSL. So no one wants that to happen,
Yeah. Portland plays Chivas on Saturday, so Kubo Torres probably goes 90 minutes. And first of all, why not? Second of all,
It's true.
Porter just, I'm sorry, I didn't have any guys ready to put in for you. All right. So, switching gears a little, there was a report come out today that there's a report this weekend that Sacramento Kings owners are looking to buy the Sacramento Republic USL Pro team so they can go to MLS. Now today there's reports that the Sac Republic people are going up to Portland this week to meet with MLS officials. Where there's smoke, there's possibly fire. Is Sacramento, we've seen their record crowds in USL Pro. Is Sacramento the next, are they Team 20? Well, if Miami doesn't get their stuff together, they could be Team 23. But is Sacramento the next MLS franchise? That's the question.
I wouldn't mind Sacramento, but please don't let it be the King owners. I don't know if you guys follow the NBA. They're like one of the worst franchises in the NBA, and I honestly I think, and our Seattle writer Mike would appreciate this. That when they were thinking about moving, I was really hoping they were going to move back to Seattle and rekindle the Supersonics, because that they really don't care about the fans in Sacramento. So why go out and buy another sport franchise where who knows what the CBA is going to look like starting next year? So what the salary cap is going to be, what the DP rules are going to be, whatever else comes into play. I think that's the wrong ownership group to take over Sacramento. I mean, say another team in LA, it's another West Coast trip, but you need teams in the West because with Atlanta, Orlando, New York City FC coming in, who are you moving over besides Houston? Is Kansas City moving over? It's how are the conferences going to look? Is there going to be a conference? So I'm sure Don Garber and his elite staff have an idea, but I guess you really can't talk about conference realignment until you get all 24 teams.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think they want to go west maybe for this, because even if Miami is Team 23, that's four
teams in the East.
4 teams in the East coming in and no West teams. San Antonio is a possibility. Shout out the Scorpions. San Antonio, I mean, they have a stadium. They have good fans. They have a nice market. I was reading something the other day when they were talking about the Raiders possibly moving to San Antonio, that San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the U.S., which is kind of surprising, being a few hours away from it. San Antonio, we have such big cities in Texas. It's like, oh, San Antonio is just another little town, but compared to the rest of the country, they're pretty big. I think they do well. I think it's up to them and Sacramento probably at this point. If Minnesota can get back in, I know they're trying to get NFL, the Vikings people on board with Minnesota. I don't
see that, and that's the problem though. It's MLS 1. That's MLS 1.0 stuff. Share the responsibility with an NFL team. It should be a separate owner who their sole focus is MLS. Like that's what we're moving towards. Moving towards the yeah, Heinemans and up in Portland. Can't think of his name.
Paulson.
Yeah, Merritt Paulson. We're moving towards those guys. Hopefully, moving away from big corporate owners into New York.
Well,
But I mean the Red Bulls they're there to stay. But it's do you really want to add all 5 teams to the East? Like that would be really really bad
yeah,
if
you'd
they
have
did
to.
that.
You'd have to. Sporting would for sure be moved, and then you're looking at like Chicago, even
Chicago, Columbus.
Columbus, possibly moving west. Yeah, it would very much shake up the conferences. And then, like you said, is there going to be conferences? Do they go to a third conference and have some kind of central type conference with Chicago, Columbus, Houston, Dallas, Kansas City? Um, guess we'll wait and see. Like you said, once Team 24 gets into the league, we'll have more to talk about that. But Mike brings up New York City FC, and I've been kind of working on putting together a little special edition roundtable with some NYCFC people, and we'll talk a little more about that when that comes. But I don't know if you all saw New York City new fancy website came out today, MLS Digital, very proud of. And the banner at the top of the page that's very large says, quote, Major League Soccer is coming to NYC. Mike, the floor is yours.
It's oh my god, I'm gonna get blessed on. I've tried to stay away from talking with New York City FC fans mainly because they just don't have a roster yet. And when 2015 hits, when when at the end after MLS Cup 2014, then you can focus on New York City FC. The Red Bulls are the franchise is going to be 20 years old in next season. MLS will be 20, so they've seen on the ticket brochures. They're for the first time ever, the Red Bulls are starting to recognize the Metro Stars. Henri's been wearing the Metro Star armband. They painted red and black stripe under the South Ward to give honor. And next year they're hinting at a lot of throwback stuff, whether it be jerseys, appearances, what have you. They're really going back to their roots because they do have a really good fan base that's been there a while. I mean, a lot of people jumped ship in '06. I don't think the Rebels are going to lose a lot of. I don't think they'll lose many season ticket holders or fans to NYCFC because, like for me, I live in Staten Island, so I live in one of the 5 boroughs. Right, so it's supposed to be a New York City FC team. Red Bull Arena is a 25-minute trip with traffic for me. Yankee Stadium would be probably about 3 hours by car, and probably the same by mass transit. I'm a Yankee fan. I rarely go to Yankee games because it's an all-day affair. I wouldn't get home until like 1 in the morning. It's not worth it to watch the game on TV. And I mean I could see them taking a lot of fans from Long Island, Yonkers, a little bit above the city, Westchester, things like that. Maybe Upper Manhattan, but Queens, Brooklyn. I still think there'll be Red Bull fans, true and true. I mean, we'll see what their stadium is. They say all 5 boroughs are in play, but there's really nowhere in Brooklyn, Staten Island, or Manhattan you're going to build a stadium. So you're stuck to the Bronx and Queens or north of the city, which then you're not New York City's team. You could be New York State's team. You could be like the Buffalo Bills, New York State's team, but you're not New York City's team if your stadium is not in New York City, which, I mean, they'll hit a lot of the younger metro traffic, and I think the Red Bulls are more the community team for the tri-state area. They have a really good academy system in place already that's just growing and growing. They have a lot of community outreach that they already do that a lot of partners aren't going to jump ship because they trust the Red Bulls. The last 2.5 years, the organization's really got itself together as far as front office wise. As opposed to when Baca and Soler and their predecessors were running the team from '06 to '09, 2010. So we'll see. It's a sore subject. It's rough. Frank Lampard signed on the field that I normally play on Thursday nights, and I was a little peeved about that. I don't want his taint anywhere near. But it's good for MLS. They'll finally get their rivalry. I mean, that's like one of the two reasons a lot of Rebel fans want one more year out of Henry is to play in that first derby game against New York City FC. Like he lives for those types of games. I mean, you see the way he treats Philly fans and DC fans in Philly and in DC. He jaws at them. He doesn't jaw at anyone like that anywhere else across the league. So I think against New York City FC fans, he'd have some fun. And the other reason would be if they make it to Champions League, see how far they can go in a Champions League run with Henry. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of Rebel fans really not worried about City coming in or that blue team or that team across the river because we have a pretty solid team. We got the monkey off our back with our silverware. We're just under at 19,000 for average attendance, so it's on the upswing for the Red Bulls. So it's now people are saying, do they have to go out and spend on a third DP? I mean, there's rumors that there's reports that came out today that David Villa what I told him say that he was on New York's discovery list, but it went to City FC. And Roxburgh kind of seems like the guy he's not going to go out and spend on a 34, 35, 36-year-old DP that he wants to go younger if he's going to spend that much and invest time into the team, which I'm fine with. I mean, David Villa could tear up the league for 1 or 2 years, or he could be a complete flop. You don't know. So, but if the Rebels are looking for younger DP talent, in all honesty, that's fine by me and a lot of the fan base.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of weird to think of it this way, but NYCFC comes in with this big dollar team, and they've already spent millions and millions on Frank Lampard via. It's almost like the Red Bulls are going to become, kind of the hard-nosed, nice little team, especially blue collar. No big guys, especially if Henry leaves. I mean, and then Cahill we're not sure what he'll do. But they have those kind of hardworking guys, Dax and Alexander, guys like that they don't get the spotlight, but they work hard every game. They especially McCarty. You're going to get 90 minutes up and down. You're going to get some sweet chips down a man.
That's a goal of the year contender for me.
Yeah, so it's kind of flipping the script for the Red Bulls. They've always been that the 1% derby with them in the Galaxy.
We have that coming up soon, September.
Yeah, so it's almost like the tables have turned. There's this new team with all this money, and now they're kind of like the hardworking Jersey's team, New York's team, blue collar. We don't have to spend as much money as them, and we're still successful, kind of thing.
I really want to know how many City FC fans are Giants and Jet fans that play at the Meadowlands. That's instead of taking one exit to go one way in the Turnpike, you take the other to go from Red Bull Arena to the Meadowlands or MetLife Stadium. So I'm kind of curious how many of those guys would call. Would call them the New Jersey Jets or the New Jersey Giants, because I know Buffalo Bills fans. I went to college upstate. You get a lot of gripe, like, oh no, we're New York's team. You guys play New Jersey, so that way everywhere. But Philly plays in Chester, LA plays in Carson, Salt Lake plays in San Utah.
Yep.
I mean, very few teams play.
There's only one downtown.
Houston, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, those are it. Sporting is in Kansas City, beautiful stadium, by the way. So it's whatever. We've taken that for so long from the rest of the league that we're in Harrison, New Jersey, which I mean, Harrison and Kearney that whole strip right there, you can blast it all you want, but we wouldn't have Miola, we wouldn't have Harks, we wouldn't have the '94, the '94 World Cup, 1990 World Cup to savor and get him back in. So whatever, we take it as a badge of pride almost.
See, there you go. The Red Bulls are already turning to their history, their hard work. Long live the Metro Stars. You guys wouldn't have this league without us. See, the Red Bulls fans, you see, it's already turning. NYCFC has no idea.
If they do a throwback hit, that's it. It's done.
Going off that, I think MLS would be stupid not to have throwback hits, at least for the original teams.
Oh man, those Wizard jerseys.
You have the sweet New England jerseys.
I'm gonna go
the old school Rapids logo with their green kit. There's so many possibilities. The old Dallas Burn jerseys can come back.
I actually do have one of the I have a Columbus Crew home jersey from '96.
Wow.
I got it on eBay a few months ago.
You could even have a Houston 1836 kit.
Yeah.
The team that never was. That's a whole other discussion for another day. I guess the Dynamo throwback would be an Earthquakes kit.
Yeah. Would the Earthquakes kit be 1974 Earthquakes? I guess they have that now.
It's kind of like the Texans. Everyone in Houston is, they grew up Oilers fans, but the Tennessee Titans now have the rights to those throwbacks. The Texans don't have the rights to that. That's kind of what San Jose. They kept their stars on their crest, even though they didn't win them.
Yeah,
but
true.
I don't want to call them out like that. But
going back to New York real quick, depending on what happens this season, if let's say they miss the playoffs and they miss CCL, could see Henry retiring, Cahill going to Australia or back to England or wherever, so they have 3 DP slots. Don't forget the expansion draft coming up, and that's going to be big too. Who takes what? Who's protected? If the Red Bulls don't protect Dax McCarty for whatever stupid reason, Orlando City SC's first pick is going to be Dax, and he'll be their captain over Kaká because he's Orlando homeboy, born and raised. He said he would play there one day, but he loves New York. I don't think he wants to leave this franchise. But if New York starts blowing up, if the Red Bulls start blowing up this team after the expansion, or before and through the expansion draft, who knows? Who knows what this team will look like going forward in the future? So,
yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think we could spend the last few minutes on. The expansion draft is going to be. We kind of talked about it last week in New York City. They have their core, but it's going to be how successful they are is going to be what they can do in the expansion draft. Their other kind of lower tier signings. Same with Orlando. There's going to be a lot of good players available. I mean, the league's, back in the day even when the Dynamo came in, they weren't an expansion team, but back then there were guys on the Dynamo that you never thought would even see the field. But now, I mean, there's so many teams with guys 12 through 18 are quality players. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially with Villa and Lampard, that New York City could compete pretty much right away. I mean, they're going to be able to plug in, they already have Jeb Brovsky, who's a quality defender. They have Jacobson, who's a nice midfielder. I mean, they're going to get guys like that to fill out the roster, and that's not going to be that's not going to be a bad team. I mean, that's you got 2 superstars, and those guys, if they can gel quickly in the preseason, who knows what they could do.
Yeah, and they're getting a third DP, so it's just a matter of who would win, and they're gonna keep signing players too. So, I mean, the way I see how they're going to treat it, they're going to treat the expansion draft like a bonus. and maybe even just get the best players out there and use them as trade bait,
Yeah, or even get some young guys and kind of
mold them. Yeah.
stash them and mold them. They're gonna get guys from City too. I mean,
Mm.
Yeah, well,
they have a
that's the one
great
thing.
coach. I mean,
Yeah,
they have probably one of the top 5, top 3 coaches in the league. So yeah, I mean they're definitely not going to be, one of those expansion teams that takes a couple of years. I think Orlando's probably the same way. I mean they'll pull a few guys off their USL team possibly, and then they have the Orlando connections, Dwyer and Zusi and McCarty and all these guys that they think they might get, but they'll probably be protected.
I mean, out of the two though, City can just throw over guys from Manchester City, and just throw over a couple of their U23 or whatever, what have you, academy guys that are in their early 20s for game time, and they'll be game ready. Orlando, how many of their USL guys will be MLS game ready? I know they signed one of their guys already, right? From their USL team, they're signed to a pro contract.
Yeah, they have. I think they have a couple. They got somebody from Salt Lake. I can't remember who it was now. They traded for somebody, and then it's gonna be one of their first MLS players. But yeah, they're slowly building a team separate from their team right now. But yeah, it's a different world of coming into the league now. I know the Fire won MLS Cup their expansion year, which was odd at the time, but now
Yeah.
you're gonna
that was the third year of MLS, so
it's not like they had a lot to catch up to. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially now with there's stars in the league, um, and the 2 expansion teams next year already have their stars, and they're probably getting more. So they're going to jump right in. They're going to jump into a tough Eastern Conference, but they're going to compete. Like I said, I think it's just going to be how fast they gel, come together, kind of from scratch. But I mean, with Christ at the helm, I give New York City a little bit of an edge over Orlando probably. Keith is a great coach too for Orlando. They've only lost I think 1 game this year in USL.
Yeah.
So he's no slouch either. But Christ has proven it. Christ proved it when he didn't have big names. RSL never had the stars, but they won a cup. They narrowly lost a cup last year. That guy can coach.
Yeah. And then when you look at the expansion draft a couple of years ago when Portland and Vancouver and how players moved from team to team, I mean, look at we'll continue with Dax McCarty. He went from Dallas, from losing MLS Cup with Dallas that previous season to getting drafted by Portland to getting traded to DC. How many players are going to move that way also? The league's going to be shooken up pretty big next year. So a lot of teams are going to be, how many teams will, after they're out of the MLS Cup run, will they start rebuilding the teams, or will they worry about the expansion draft? It's going to be a fun off season. If this past season off season, we said it was busy, the next off season is going to be even worse.
Yeah, there's the new CBA. There's the expansion teams coming in. It's going to be quite the off season. Just on the field, off the field, the new TV deal. Everything's coming up MLS. Everybody's jumping onto the bandwagon. Yep. All right, guys. So we did about an hour there. We'll kind of wrap things up for tonight's show. Before we go, you guys have any last words, comments, thoughts? Mike, we'll start with you.
I just hope Henry and Ray Phillips, Cahill, don't get injured at the All-Star game. Especially Ray Phillips. That would be detrimental to New York right now.
Yeah, on behalf of all of the league, I hope they have a good showing against Bayern. I hope no one gets hurt, and then we can get down to the stretch run and play some good games towards the end with everyone healthy. And we didn't even get into the transfer window, which closes Wednesday. We did a little bit, but the transfer window closes Wednesday. So if anyone's gonna sign anybody, Columbus, New England, DC, all you people on Twitter that send us tweets, we hear you. We wish we could help your team bring in Mix and Jermaine and all these guys, but we don't have that much power. But for all the fans out there, hopefully you guys sign some big names here in the last few hours of this transfer window. Only make the league better, more exciting. We're all for that. Philip, anything you'd like to say? Famous last words?
I think one thing we didn't talk about was I saw a tweet earlier this morning about Chivas going MLS wants $60 million.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that either. See, there's so much to talk about.
Just $60 million?
Multiple episodes. We might have a Kickstarter coming.
Yeah, I got the first $20.
If you guys want in on Chivas USA, we'll give you a seat on the board of directors, including ourselves.
That's a loss for the league then, right? If it's $60 million, because they gave Vergara $100 million.
Yeah, they bought it for $70 from Vergara, so
yeah,
they're asking $60, but you know the real number probably won't ever come out.
And especially if you get in the bidding war. I mean, that's just it starts at $60. That doesn't mean it's going to stay at $60.
Yeah, I mean the Clippers are selling for what, $2 billion?
Yeah.
You never know.
And with the new CBA, expect it to go up.
Yeah, it'll go up. All right, guys. Well, we kind of threw in some topics there at the last second that we didn't get to. But if you guys out there watching, listening, if you want to discuss anything with us, hit us up on Twitter. You can tweet me, Philip, Mike directly. You can tweet at Total-MLS. We'll answer some of your questions if you have anything you want to just talk about. You want to vent about your team. You want to talk about the New York Derby that's now established. We like both sides of it. We don't want to play any favorites. Mike doesn't like both sides, but we as the Total MLS family, we love everyone. Thanks everybody out there that watched this week, that listened. We will be bringing you that New York City FC specific roundtable, hopefully maybe later this week. If not, we'll be back with the roundtable again next week. Until then, enjoy the All-Star game. Enjoy this weekend's games. Talk to you soon.